Hi, everybody. VPartySports here with the VPartySports Podcast for this Thursday afternoon, 1 minute after the top of the hour, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, 12 o'clock out here on the West Coast. Hope you're having a great Thursday morning, afternoon, headed into the evening. We got a big show for you today. We're 2 days away from the NFL Super Wildcard Weekend, 6 games. And with the added 7th team the last couple of years, the NFL has made it a priority to have a Monday night game as well, too. We'll give you all the schedules. We'll give you the early lines. You'll see them on the bottom of the ticker right there. If you're interested in sponsorships, please contact me directly. Vasi Vada Party on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter as well, at VPartySports. We'll be back your way 3 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific. We'll give you a little bit more detail on the Super Wildcard Weekend. We'll have some more NBA. We'll have some more NBA. We'll have some more NHL and college basketball to talk about as well, too. All right, let me adjust this here for a second. For some reason, I'm not adjusting this properly, so let's see if we can adjust this here. Live on the fly. We are live on Twitter. We are live on Instagram. We are live on YouTube, and we're live on Facebook right now as well. All right, there we go. A little bit better, I think. That's all right. Nobody needs to see me. They want the information. You know why they want the information? Let me tell you why they want the information. Information goes like this, as soon as I can find it. The VPartySports Podcast for week 2 of the year, the calendar year 2022. 10-2 on Wednesday night. How about that? Those of you that get my best bet segment, 10-2 on Wednesday night, 24-10 this week over the 3 days. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of games, but there's a lot of games to like, whether you take them all or not. Just take a couple here or there. You get yourself a good winning percentage. 24-10 for the week, nearly 70%. 82-58 over the year. That's the percentage is up from last week, almost 60%. So right now we are hot. Don't forget the best bet segment. I'll give you a couple of picks here before the end of the show. And then at 6 o'clock Eastern, we'll have the Daily Post, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the Daily Post as well, too. All right, Super Wildcard Weekend. You see the lines going across. We'll hit the NFL. We'll talk about some of the things going on in the NFL, some injuries, different locations for the AFC title game potentially, and a lot more to do, and quarterbacks in and out as well for all 14 teams this weekend, 6 games this weekend, so 12 teams playing. The 2 1 seeds are Philadelphia, Kansas City. They have the weekend off. They get to sit back and wait and see who they're going to play. Next week, we're going to have Kansas City Chiefs pre- and post-game show host Darren Smith from Kansas City on with us to preview who the Chiefs are going to play. They won't know until after this weekend. Didn't make sense to have them on before the weekend. So we're trying to get somebody from Philadelphia as well, too, to come on and talk about the Eagles and their chances of the 1 seed in the NFC. All right, we start with the NBA. You see the NBA lines going down. Let me give you the lines to begin with. Find them here. The NBA lines. We got about 5 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games tonight in the NBA. The Philadelphia 76ers are 9.5 versus Oklahoma City. Remember, Oklahoma City, one of the teams that covers on the road. When they're an underdog, they are very good on the road. I'm going to pull up the standings here as I go through the lines. Philadelphia, 9.5-point favorite. They're going to get Joel Embiid back. He missed the last game. Load management. I think that's a term most NBA fans are getting sick to hear of. But 9.5 versus Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City had a chance to beat Miami the other night. We'll get into the recaps of the week since our last show Monday. But the Thunder visiting Philadelphia, the only time they visit Philadelphia, 9.5 for the Sixers, 233. The Boston Celtics, they had a big win over Dallas last week. They played well. They beat up on New Orleans. This week, they're a 3-point favorite at Brooklyn. Of course, Brooklyn's going to be out without Kevin Durant for about the next month or so. They've got talent on that team. They just don't play defense very well right now. 227 the total. Boston played defense when it counted against the Pelicans last night. Toronto, an 8-point favorite versus Charlotte. 231 the total. Miami, a 4-point favorite versus Milwaukee at home. 217. Milwaukee does not play well on the road. They're 11-9 on the road, but it seems worse than that to me. I know they give up 51 points to Charlotte on Sunday in the first quarter at home of all places. So you got to figure that Milwaukee's struggling a little bit. It just doesn't seem like they're struggling, but they are struggling a little bit. Miami, they're off and on. They had the game against Oklahoma City. As we said, Oklahoma City very good as an underdog. even at home, and they were able to hold on there. The Dallas Mavericks are going to visit the Lakers tonight. They're a 2.5-point favorite at LA. Lakers have played well at home. They're going to get LeBron James back. 235.5 the total. A lot of points being scored in that game. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite at Portland. Portland lost to Orlando the other night. They also lost to Minnesota on the road trip. They beat up on somebody on last Friday. Get those out in a second. But as far as the week that has happened, pretty much in the past right now, we look forward to tonight. 6 games, as we said. Look at the standings in the NBA. Boston Celtics, 30-12. Brooklyn, 27-13. Milwaukee, 27-14. Philadelphia in 4th place, 25-15. Cleveland, 5th at 26-16. 23-19 for the Knicks in the 6th spot, guaranteed playoff spot. Indiana, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, all 7-10. Atlanta and Chicago under 500, 19-22. Chicago, 19-23. They're still having a tough time deciding what they're going to do with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who apparently do not get along with each other in terms of court play. Both their games are similar, but somebody's got to play one spot, somebody's got to play the other spot. And they're a really good team. They played Boston tough the other night on Monday night as well, too. So, Chicago in the 10th spot. In the West, the Denver Nuggets continue to roll. They beat up on the Phoenix Suns last night, 28-13. They're tied with Memphis, but they have the 1 seed. They haven't played Memphis yet for the second time. They rolled on them about a month ago in Denver, 28-13 for Denver and Memphis. New Orleans Pelicans, after the loss last night, 25-17. Sacramento got a big win last night against Houston. They outscored Houston by 21 points in the 4th quarter. Gave everybody a scare in terms of covering that -9, but they were able to win by 20. 22-18, their record. 135-115, the final score last night. We'll have a full recap. Dallas, 23-19, play tonight. Clippers, 22-21. They beat Dallas a couple of nights ago. Phoenix, Golden State, Utah, and Minnesota, 7-10. Golden State was out of the top 10 a week and a half ago. They got Curry back on Tuesday night, but they lost to Phoenix, a very undermanned Phoenix team, Tuesday night as a 12-point favorite. And then Phoenix on back-to-back nights going to Denver and get railed by a very good Denver Nuggets team who plays very good defense. So keep that in mind going forward. Utah in the 9th spot, they faced their old teammate Donovan Mitchell. And Cleveland, they came out with a victory at home. They're 21-23, and Minnesota 20-22. The Trailblazers, the Lakers, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Houston are out of the playoff spot. The Trailblazers have lost 4 in a row and are 2-8 in their last 10. So that's what we have for the NBA right now. Let's go through some of the games from earlier in the week in the NBA. Yesterday, Pistons got rolled up by Minnesota 135-118. Kyle Kuzma hits a game winner versus the Bulls, 100-97. The Bucks beat up on the Hawks yesterday, 114-105. Boston, they were close with New Orleans for a long time, but then they got the separation they needed in the 4th quarter, 125-114 over the Pelicans. Boston leads the East, as we said, at 30-12. Number 1 in the East, Tatum and Brown killing it for Boston right now. Knicks 119-113 over Indiana. Indiana's played well, but they lost Tyrese Halliburton in the game yesterday, and that's a big loss for them. See how long he's going to be out. Probably miss a game or two, but that's going to be unfortunate for the Indiana Pacers, who are playing very, very well right now, especially at home. They're a good bet at home, by the way. Indiana Pacers have been a really good bet at home. Memphis did not cover against San Antonio. One thing about the Spurs, Greg Popovich, they can score. They can't play any defense, but they can score. They give up 135 to Memphis. They get 129 themselves. They cover the 11.5, but it's Memphis 135-129 over San Antonio. We talked about Denver. They rolled up on the Suns, 126-97. Jokic was his usual self last night. And Phoenix missed a bunch of starters, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and others that were not available. Of course, Devin Booker out for about 3 more weeks for the Phoenix Suns. Kings got 41 points in the 4th quarter. They outscored Houston 41-20 when they were down 1 after 3. Beat up on the Houston Rockets 135-115. So that's what happened in the NBA Wednesday. Tuesday, the Sixers beat up on Detroit. That was with Embiid. They didn't have him on the 10th. So they didn't have him against Detroit on Tuesday. Today's the 12th. That's right. 147-116 versus Detroit last night. Tuesday night, the Heat beat Oklahoma City 112-111 on a game-winning basket and one by Jimmy Butler. By the way, the Heat went 40 for 40 from the free throw line on Tuesday night. That is an NBA record. The previous record was 39 for 39. I didn't know this. Even if you had broken the record at 39 with 40, if they had missed a free throw, that's not counted as the record because I'm assuming it's by percentage. So even though they shot more free throws consecutively, if they had missed a free throw, that would not have been the record. Toronto beats up on Charlotte 132 to 120. Charlotte gets up a ton of points. A lot of good overs in that series between Charlotte and Toronto, both East teams. Utah, we talked about them facing their old teammate Donovan Mitchell, 116 to 114. In fact, I want to go to the box score there for that just to see what happened. That was Tuesday night. Donovan Mitchell came back for the Cleveland Cavaliers against his former team where he got drafted from, the Utah Jazz. 46 points for Donovan Mitchell, but it wasn't good enough. 14 of 27, 7 of 18 for threes, and just an all-around great game by Mitchell, but he could not pull out the victory. Cavaliers were up by 6 late in that game, but the Jazz came back. All right, then the Suns upset Golden State, which we told you about. Then they come back the next night, lose to Denver. Magic beat up on Portland 109 to 106. They opened the second half with a 13-0 run when the game was tied. And then the Clippers 113-101 over Dallas. So that's where we are with the NBA. Talked about the standings. The games tonight, as we said, are 6 games. They are Philadelphia and Oklahoma City, Boston at Brooklyn. The Bucks are visiting Miami for the Heat. Hornets and Raptors in Toronto. The Mavericks at Lakers. That game on TNT, as is the Celtics-Nets game. And then Cleveland visits Portland as a road favorite tonight. That's very scary to go against Portland as a home underdog, but they've lost 4 in a row. They're 2-8. Even Lillard and his shooting prowess can't help them right now as they go along. Friday's games, and we'll get to more of Friday's games tomorrow, but I just want to give you an outline of a full schedule tomorrow when it comes up. Friday's games are Pistons-Pelicans, Hawks-Pacers, Knicks-Wizards. Hawks-Pacers will be a good game. Knicks-Wizards. Knicks are fighting for that 6th spot. Warriors are in San Antonio. They're going to try and load that Alamo Dome up. They're going to play at the Alamo Dome. They've already sold 60,000 tickets to that game in San Antonio. The previous record was at the Georgia Dome when Michael Jordan and the Bulls came in the mid-'90s. But they're doing a solid for the San Antonio fans. Steph Curry and the Warriors, he's playing. They've sold more than 60,000 tickets in San Antonio. They're going to play at the Alamo Dome. So it's going to be a big night for them and the San Antonio fan base. Warriors already an early 8.5-point favorite in that game tomorrow night. Thunder going to visit the Bulls. Oklahoma City Thunder going to go to Chicago. Both teams not playing well right now. Both teams very good at covering, though. Chicago covered against Boston. Oklahoma City barely lost to Miami on the road. Then you've got the Suns and Timberwolves. Phoenix trying to get their starters back, trying to maintain a pace without their starters. Minnesota, they're very iffy. They've got a lot of talent on that Minnesota team, but they just can't seem to put it together. And the record of 20-22 indicates that. Orlando Magic, they had that one big win at Golden State on Saturday night, but other than that, they've looked awful this whole week, considering the talent that they have. They're 16-26. The Jazz, 21-23, are at home on Friday night. Nuggets Clippers, back on ESPN Friday night in Los Angeles. And then the Rockets and Kings will play again on Friday night. So we'll give you more detail of that coming up tomorrow on the show at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Let me give you a little reminder here. 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, we'll preview the NFL wildcard weekend, Super Wildcard weekend. Of course, the NBA, NCAA basketball will recap Thursday's action. It is Big Ten, Pac-12, WCC night in college basketball. So a full recap of that, a preview of Saturday's matchups as well. And then don't forget, Saturday and Sunday will be on at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. on the West Coast. We'll have some interviews as well. Attempting to get Russell Baxter, a Pro Football Guru. He's committed to come on with us as well to preview this wild card weekend as well. So lots going on the VPartySports Podcast. When we come back in 30 seconds, we will hit the college basketball scene. We will hit it hard in 30 seconds. Vasi Party here, the VPartySports Podcast on this Thursday afternoon, 15 minutes after the hour on the East Coast, 12:15 here on the West Coast. Back in 30 seconds with all the college basketball recaps and previews for tonight on this Thursday. Welcome back to the V Party Sports Podcast. Vasu VParty here with you on this Thursday afternoon. 2 days ahead of the Super Wildcard weekend, Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs, both number one seeds. They're awaiting the winners of the 6 games that happen this weekend, 2, 3, and 1. All of the other 6 wildcard participants in each conference are going to take place. 14 teams entirely in the playoffs. They've added the 7th team a couple of years ago, and only one bye now. So Kansas City will have their bye on this weekend, as well as the Philadelphia Eagles, both the 1 seeds in the AFC and the NFC. One note in the football, and we'll get to the football a little bit, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be the neutral site for the Bills and Chiefs AFC Championship title game. I mean, I get it. I understand what the NFL is trying to do. I want to hear what you think about it. The championship title game in Atlanta, it's indoors, and it's on it's not really turf. It's kind of that fake grass, real grass type thing, the one with the pellets. It's not outside grass. Here's the thing. Both teams play outdoors. Kansas City is the 1 seed. They play outdoors. The temperature will probably be in the 30s. Buffalo, we know about Buffalo in the winter. We saw that a few weeks ago on pregame, 21 degrees. Of course, the big game last week against Miami after the DeMar Hamlin situation. By the way, he's out of the hospital, and he's back in Buffalo. Wanted to update that as well, too. But a neutral site for the Bills and Chiefs. Not only is it not outdoors, it's indoors. It's in Atlanta. I get the neutral site part of it because the Bills only played 16 games. If they had won that game against Cincinnati 2 Mondays ago, they would have the number 1 seed, and then it would have to be a visit to Kansas City. So a neutral site, I guess, is the most fair way to do it. We'll get to the BCS championship game in the next break, but what a whooping by Georgia on TCU, 65-7. Stetson Bennett, the 4th, led that team, 14-point favorite as it ended up. I totally had TCU totally wrong in that scenario, and it cost a lot of TCU people as well. But as I said, I'm going to go back to this again. Hot so far for the week. TCU outside of that, 10-2 yesterday. 2 NBA games did not come through, 24-10 overall for the week, for week 2 of year 2023, 82-58 year-to-date total. All right, let's hit the college basketball. You see the lines going across. We will hit Tuesday's NCAA, St. John's over Butler, Seton Hall 66-51 over Georgetown. K-State 65-57 over Oklahoma State. Iowa State 84-50 versus Texas Tech. The Big 12 very strong this year. Kansas did not cover, but they held off Oklahoma 79-75 Tuesday night. Michigan State in the Big 10 got a big win at Wisconsin. That was a pick'em game, 69-65 over Wisconsin. The Fighting the Line now went into Nebraska. Nebraska's been pretty good this year, but 3-point favorite, no match for Illinois, 76-50. Notre Dame in the ACC, 73-72 over Georgia Tech. Good play on that. Georgia Tech plus 5.5 in that game. And then Virginia minus 4.5 over North Carolina. That defense came through in the last 3 minutes versus North Carolina. That was a really good game. And Virginia has shown that they can play with the big boys this year. Of course, they are a NCAA championship team from a few years back. Tony Bennett's still there, but they've got some guys that can throw the ball in the hoop as opposed to before. But 65-58, defense showed up the last minute and a half. Tennessee versus Vanderbilt, 77-68, didn't cover 17. Auburn beat Ole Miss. South Carolina, the big upset at Kentucky, 71-68. Florida at LSU, a 2-point favorite at LSU. Had high hopes for LSU, but this may not be their year for the Tigers there. 67-56. In the Mountain West, Air Force in overtime over Colorado State. San Jose State, my Spartans, 74-64, having a good year. They beat Fresno State, those rivals of ours. Utah State over Wyoming by 20. And San Diego State's a really good team. They're the class of the Mountain West right now, them and Boise State. We'll get to Boise State in a second. 74-65 over UNR. Wednesday, Alabama might be the best team in the country that nobody knows about. They're 4th. They beat Arkansas on the road as a 1-point underdog, 84-69. In the SEC, A&M, 82-64 over Missouri. Marquette in the Big East beat UConn. Xavier, 90-87 over Creighton. Did anybody see that game? That was my favorite game of the day at Creighton yesterday. They had a big lead. Xavier went on an 11-2 run. Then they were up 4, a three-pointer that hit with 1 second left. Thought everybody was going to get an L on that if you had Xavier -2.5. They foul him. The 2 free throws made, deflected pass, winner chicken dinner for Xavier, 90-87 over Creighton. But now I have to take a look at Creighton again because they got off to a hot start and slumped a little bit, lost 5 in a row, and now they're back to looking like they can play. They've got some shooters on that team. They've got Kaufman in the middle. Scheidman can shoot from anywhere on the floor. Unbelievable range, but Xavier comes through. And then DePaul, 75-65 versus Villanova last night. The ACC, Miami covered the 11.5 against Boston College, 88-72. Duke did not cover versus Pitt. They were 8.5. Looks to me like 8 by my math, but versus Pitt, who's very good in the ACC. Syracuse, a home underdog. Don't ever go against Jim Boeheim if he's a home underdog. 82-72 up over Virginia Tech at home. Clemson did not cover 16 versus Louisville, 83-70, but Louisville struggling all year. I think they've only won 4 games all year. And then Wake Forest got a big victory, 9-point favorite over Florida State. Florida State having a rough year so far in the ACC, though they did get a win last weekend. Big conference games coming up this weekend. We'll have a full preview of that tomorrow and Saturday morning, surrounded by the Super Wildcard weekend and, of course, football guests galore, trying to get somebody from Seattle, as well as national reporter Russell Baxter will be with us as well for Saturday morning to talk about the wildcard games on Saturday. All right, more college basketball. Penn State all over Indiana, 85-66. Rutgers 65-62 win yesterday as well in the Big Ten. Big 12, Baylor over West Virginia. Underdog there, 83-78. Great game between TCU. Those of you that had them, plus 6.5. They had the lead. Texas came back, ended up winning by 4, 79-75. UCF was down big versus Memphis. They were a 2-point favorite. They end up winning by 3 thanks to double overtime. Those overtimes, they come in handy for people if you need them. But I guess if you had Memphis, you did not like that as well. Houston also could be the number 1 team in the country, 83-77 over South Florida. Tulane, very good in the American, 97-88 over SMU. UC Cincinnati, 83-55 over East Carolina in the American. In the Pac-12, the only Pac-12 game on Wednesday night, Washington State Cougars, 66-51 over Cal. They covered the 9 points there in the Palouse. Boise State, the other Mountain West team, 84-66, the only Mountain West game last night. Underdog at UNLV. UNLV now 1-3 in conference. Boise State right there near the top with Nevada Reno as the top 2 teams right now in the Mountain West. All right, that's your college basketball wrap. For the recap, let's go to the lines for the game. The Big Ten. It's a Big Ten Pac-12 night, WCC night in the NCAA. We'll highlight those. We'll give you a little added stuff at the end as well too. Ohio State, 15-point favorite over Minnesota. Minnesota's just been awful this year, but that's a lot of points. Iowa 5.5 versus Michigan, 154 the total. The Pac-12, Colorado Buffaloes have played well. Shout out to the Buffs fans over there in Boulder. 3-point underdog at USC tonight. Oregon 5-point favorite versus Arizona State. Bobby Hurley's squad has been terrific this year, 137. UCLA has just been tremendous. They've got Utah. Utah's very tough, though. They did lose to Oregon last weekend. 12-point underdog to UCLA, 135.5. Washington will host Stanford, a 1.5-point favorite tonight. That's at 11 o'clock Eastern. Also at 11 o'clock, Arizona, coming off their loss last week to Washington State. 15-point favorite against Oregon State in the Pac-12. The WCC, St. Mary's, 13.5 over Loyola Marymount. Gonzaga at BYU, 6.5-point favorite, 153.5. San Diego, University of San Diego, 2.5 versus Pepperdine, 155.5. And then USF will travel up to Portland, -2, 148.5 on that total. Some of the other conferences, the A10, the Horizon Conference is one of the big ones that we talk about as well too. The A10, let me pull that up here. No games today in the A10. The Horizon, VCU Dayton tomorrow. The Horizon League was where I was looking at. Something about these things going slow right now. The screens are popping up slow. Detroit Mercy, Youngstown State, Robert Morris, Oakland, Wright State, Green Bay. Green Bay only 2-15. Milwaukee, 11-5. Northern Kentucky, 10-7. Youngstown State, the best team in that conference as well tonight. The Sun Belt has a few games of interest for people. We know people like to bet on all of them. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Appalachian State, Troy. The team right now is Louisiana Lafayette, 12-4. James Madison, 11-6. But Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles, 14-3 there. That game at 9 o'clock Eastern. They are going to visit Marshall. Marshall, an 8-point favorite there, as Marshall's 13-4 in the Sun Belt Conference. So those are what you have on college basketball today. When we come back, one more break. We'll just hit the NFL, touch on the NFL a little bit, and then we'll say goodbye. I'll give you a best bet for right now, but don't forget best bets are posted daily at 6 o'clock during the week, 3 o'clock on the West Coast on Instagram, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Our podcast will be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Plan to get some guests. I can confirm Russell Baxter, formerly of ESPN, now Pro Football Guru, is going to join us Saturday morning to preview the entire NFL weekend, talk about some of the things going on in the NFL, coaching changes, and what you would do if you were certain teams in the top 10 of the draft as well, too. Russell Baxter to join us then. All right, back in 30 seconds, NFL Super Wildcard Weekend preview, and then we'll say adios for this Thursday. Don't forget, if you missed any of it, replays galore starting at the top of the hour, the top of the next hour, 4 o'clock and 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock and 3 o'clock for the final hour before tip-offs and face-offs in the NCAA and the NBA and the NHL. Back in 30 seconds. Welcome back to the V Party Sports Podcast. Final segment here. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter for your comments. We appreciate it very much. Please feel free to keep forwarding those even after we're off the air, including the replays. You can send your comments in to that as well. All right, let's hit the hockey a little bit before we hit the NFL and get out of here and give you a best bet. Boston Bruins are playing very well. They are 32-4-4. How about that? 32-4-4. They're about a 235 favorite against the Seattle Kraken, who are playing well also, 24-12-4. That's a good matchup tonight in Boston. The Jets and Sabres will be there. Winnipeg playing very well. Buffalo coming off a victory in overtime, 26-14 for one of my favorite teams, the Winnipeg Jets. Carolina 335 at Columbus. They're 25-9, and you can see why they're a 335 favorite, 57 points there. The Toronto Maple Leafs are 26-9. They are at Detroit. They're about a 145 favorite, 6.5 the total. Tampa Bay, they're a 250 favorite at Vancouver. At Vancouver, a 250 favorite. That is, where are they? Tampa Bay. Are they playing today? They might not be playing today. Tampa Bay versus Vancouver. Oh, they're in Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. They're hosting Vancouver. That's what thought it was in Vancouver. 250 favorite versus Vancouver, 6.5 the total. Rangers coming off a big win in overtime in a shootout, 125 over a very good Dallas Stars team, 23-12-7 for the Rangers, 25-11-6 for the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference. Nashville, 175 at Montreal. Nashville, 19-15-6, and Montreal struggling, 16-22-3. And then Minnesota has played very well too. They're going to go visit the New York Islanders, who are also playing very well. 115 on the road is a road favorite, 5.5 the total. Calgary, 165 at St. Louis. St. Louis has struggled a little bit lately, but Calgary, 19-14-9. They can score. St. Louis has had a tough time stopping teams right now. They're 21-18-3, so it's kind of surprising that they're a home dog. You may have to look at that as well, too. Last set of games, Colorado at my Blackhawks, 320 on the road. 6 the total. Ottawa, 155 at Arizona, 6.5 there. The Golden Knights, 27-13. They are a 115 favorite, 27-13-2 against the Florida Panthers team, who's pretty well, kind of a low favorite, but Las Vegas trying to get healthy. The road teams today in the Grand Salami are minus 160, so the difference in goals favor the road team, minus 160, and then your over-under for total goals amongst all the, I'm going to guess that's 9 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 12 games. I'm sorry, 12 games, 76.5 the total. That's about 6 a game, so that's about right. 76.5 on the over-under. All right, NFL this weekend. Let's hit it real quick before we get out of here. San Francisco -10 over Seattle. Third time they'll play this year, 42.5. 49ers have dominated the first 2 appearances, but don't underestimate what Seattle's done the last few weeks. And it'll be in Santa Clara. The weather will be a little rainy. I don't think it'll favor either team. 42.5 the total there. Chargers have gone up from a 1-point favorite to a 2.5-point favorite against Jacksonville in Jacksonville. 47.5 the total, by the way, just for broadcasting geeks. Game will be on NBC. The Seattle-San Francisco game will be first on Saturday, 4:30 on Fox. NBC has a Saturday night game. They're going to bring Al Michaels to work with Tony Dungy on Saturday night for NBC. So Al Michaels is going to get a little national attention. Of course, he's on Prime this year with Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on NBC for the main job. Chargers 2.5, Jacksonville 47.5 in Jacksonville. Buffalo, no Tua Tagovailoa this weekend. He's out. So they're going to go with Skylar Thompson. He took them to victory, got them in the playoffs against the Jets last week. Jets fired their offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur. Didn't score a touchdown in 3 straight games. They were out of the playoffs. They were eliminated the week before. But that line has gone up from 9 to 11.5 to now 13. Are you really disrespecting Skylar Thompson? But Miami's defense has been pretty good. They played Buffalo tight on that Saturday night a few weeks back, a 7.5-point, 8-point favorite for Buffalo. Game came down to a field goal at the end by Buffalo and Tyler Bass. So 43.5 there. Minnesota 3 over the Giants. They played earlier this year. Giants made a valiant comeback, got the game to 3, covered the 4.5. So can they win the game outright? Barkley is going to have to run wild. Daniel Jones cannot make mistakes like he did in 3 quarters in Minnesota the last time they played. Lamar Jackson has not practiced. He has not played in 6 weeks. He still has not practiced. And now Tyler Huntley hasn't practiced on Thursday either, according to reports. So Brown, the quarterback last week, they got pummeled by Cincinnati, although they did make it close at the end. Third time they're playing each other. Cincinnati, 9-point favorite versus Baltimore. John Harbaugh, very good coach, but without a quarterback, and they don't have McSorley there anymore. He's in Arizona. So you got to think Brown might start for Baltimore, but I would wait on that. That's Sunday afternoon. That's Sunday evening, 8 o'clock on NBC. Minnesota and the Giants will be on CBS. And then Minnesota and the Giants will be on Fox, I think. Let's see. They're on Fox. Ravens, Bengals on NBC. Dolphins, Bills on CBS on Sunday. And then Monday night, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's never lost to the Dallas Cowboys. He's 7-0 in his career against Dallas. But Dallas still a 2.5-point favorite. Are you confident in Dak Prescott? What say you out there, fan base on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook? Send your comments in. Are you confident in the Dallas Cowboys? 2.5-point favorite. I know Tampa Bay has not scored a lot of points this year. 45.5 the total. But, boy, that's Tom Brady, and he's a home underdog, and that's very rare. And you got to think that that's going to be favor a little bit for Tampa Bay, at least in my book. But official selections will be coming up as the games come up. All right. Those are your 6 games for the weekend. Philadelphia and Kansas City have the 1 seeds. They have a bye. Don't forget the NFL reseeds after every weekend, so the lowest seed will always play the higher seed. So Kansas City will play everybody from 4 to 7 and so on down the line. Same for Philadelphia, 4 to 7. San Francisco, by the way, let me give you this. San Francisco is the 2 seed. Seattle, the 7 seed. Chargers are the 5 seed. Jacksonville, the 4 seed. Buffalo, the 2 seed. Miami, the 7 seed. Minnesota, the 3 seed. The Giants, the 6 seed. Cincinnati's the 3 seed. Baltimore's the 6 seed. And Dallas is the 5 seed. They are visiting Tampa Bay, who has the 4 seed. The NFC South was terrible, but the division winner will always get the home game over the team with the better record. That's just the way it works. And now with an extra team in each conference for the playoffs, 6 games this weekend, one of the best weekends in the NFL. All right, real quick, I'll give you a best bet right now, and then the rest will be at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The Las Vegas Golden Knights, even with their injuries, 115 tonight over Florida in the National Hockey League. And then the San Francisco Dons are going to visit Portland State. They're going up to, University of Portland, a 2-point favorite. WCC has been very underrated this year next to the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big East, and the Big 12. Very good conference. Of course, Gonzaga rules that conference, but USF has had a good year. They're a 2-point favorite. They're going to go into Portland. They're going to demolish Portland tonight. Don't hate me, Oregon. I'm just telling you the facts as I see them. Daily Post, 6 Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for your comments. Appreciate you joining me for the live broadcast. Don't forget, replays will come up at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Eastern, and the printed daily post with the best bets for Thursday will be coming up as well, too. 10-2 yesterday, 24-10 for the week, 82-58 overall year-to-date since January 1st. Starting to get hot right now. Even in the cold weather, it's starting to get hot right now. So I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. Any questions you have, any games you're interested in, let me know, and we will discuss them. I'm Vasi VParty. That is the VParty Sports for this Thursday afternoon. Good luck with your games. We will talk to you tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on the VParty Sports Podcast. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody.